What's poppin'? What's going on? Happy Monday. We're doing a Monday stream. Sunday was a wash. I didn't get back from my weekend thing in time, really, so I didn't stream. But it's good to see you guys. Am I like out of focus a little bit? Or am I looking good? I don't know. But yeah, I kind of want to, let me see. I'm going to post to Twitter. Say that we're up and at 'em. And then we can get started. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Little retweet, little quote tweet. Getting started now. Hit them with the, what's that? It's like a little happy face blowing a birthday popper thing. You know what I'm talking about? Birthday. Ta-da! How do I get to that emoji? Congrats. Happy. What the heck is that emoji? What is it called? Partying face? Is that what it is? Partying face. All right. Gonna hit him with the tweet. We're gonna hit him with the Slack on community Slack. Hey all, just gonna get started in a bit doing some live coding maintenance on Cockroach. Feel free to drop in on Twitch and ask your questions if you've got them. All right. Well, hey everybody. I hope you're having a good start of your week. I'm having a pretty good start of my week. I thought that today we could do something a little different. I got the itch, as I sometimes get, to like go through the CockroachDB issue backlog, which is, you know, quite a sight to behold, I would say. Quite a sight to behold. But I kind of got the itch to go through and close some old stuff. I thought we could do it together on stream. It's kind of a fun activity. Get you a bit of an overview of what we're doing. So we're going to check that out. Switch over to desktop view. And basically we can get started. So I did start doing this. I did a couple pages worth. And that's kind of when I decided, man, it would be sort of fun to stream this. But we kind of got to like, I don't know, maybe the second or third page or something out of 130 pages. We're not going to go through all 130 pages, but it's like sometimes you get these 2016 issues, you know. 2016 issues are pretty juicy when you've got a project that's been around for like this long. It's not that long, but you know, if you've got a 4-digit issue, if you've got a 2016 issue, it's kind of fun to try to squash some of these guys down. So one thing that I wanted to talk about first was actually this one. This one I might end up just doing after, if I get sick of this, I might end up just tackling this one on stream because it's just not so complicated. It kind of turns out that we already have the information to make this happen. What's up, Faust? Hey, Crazy Driver, how are you guys doing? Welcome to the stream. Let me just show you actually, just since we're talking about estimated row count, it's pretty cool. So I've got this sample database here, Cockroach open. And if I hit show tables, I have like a lot of random test tables in this because I've been messing around doing some stuff, but you could see that for, so here was a test of a table that was making sure that you could put a parentheses in a table and a schema. So you can ignore this. It's not very professional. But anyway, so you can see A and B, they've got the 10,000 estimated row count. I think I have TPCH on this. So if I show tables on TPCH, we'll see, yeah, this is looking a little bit more normal. So we got the estimated row counts, 25, 5, 10,000. So I mean, this is like a pretty simple issue to fix, I think, putting this estimated row count up into the UI. And if you actually look, whoops, I guess this would be 8080. If you look into the UI here, you'll see, you know, what we've got already. And I can click on any one of these tables in tbch, and you can sort of see some stuff already. You can see that there's a replicated size information. You know, you can see that the public line item table is about 1 GB, but it doesn't have those estimated rows. And I feel like that would just be so simple to add. Just like put it right over here, and then like all of a sudden you're going to be way happier. Yo, Alex Sparoza, by the way, thanks for that follow. Appreciate it. So yeah, I might fix that, but I don't know. Yeah, until then, I thought we could just sort of go through some of these old ones and take a look at it and try to see if we can close some of these. So I'm going to actually just go to the next page because I think this is the last page that I looked at. Right, so I guess we'll start at the bottom. UI, web interface into the data. Provide a PHP MyAdmin functionality. Yeah, so this is kind of an old standing one, right? Like we don't really have, we've got this pretty sophisticated web UI that you're probably used to looking at if you've used Cockroach or if you've been on the stream. We've got all sorts of stuff here, you know, time series, you can introspect databases, you can look at active sessions, which is recent. Wonder what's going on here. There we go. I think my computer is just doing a lot right now. But anyway, you can look at this, you can look at statements, transactions, but it doesn't really have like, you know, there's no shell over here that's like SQL. One thing that, you know, we're thinking about is Snowflake. You know, Snowflake, they're doing pretty good. If you know about databases, they're kind of kicking ass right now. And they've got, you know, a big part of Snowflake is that you can do everything from the UI, right? Like you might have a tab on the left side that's like, you know, SQL, run me some SQL, make me a notebook, you know, have some saved statements, do some exploration. And that's not something that we really provide. And I think that that's what this issue is kind of about. Provide a PHP MyAdmin-like functionality for Cockroach where you can create, alter, drop tables, add, edit rows, etc. And I think that, yeah, I mean, this is still valid, right? We're not going to close this. We're not there yet. All right, so coming up next, scans with limit acquire excessively large latches. Actually, I think I'm going to skip this one. There's certain ones that like you can sort of skip because I don't really know anything about them. I mostly work on SQL stuff. And so for SQL stuff, we kind of don't know, or for SQL stuff, we can kind of close things. For UI stuff, we can kind of close things. For KV things, I don't really know too much about them. So implement a maximum size checker on columns and families. This one I care about quite a bit. So one thing that I've been talking about on the stream recently has been kind of this idea of what goes wrong if you try to store giant blobs into Cockroach. And quite a few things kind of go wrong with that. Yo, Crazy Driver, looking at working on this, but no idea where to start. Maybe I can give you a help for this. Let's see. Whoops. Always so hard to drag windows between monitors. I don't know why I'm so bad at that. Reorder, group, by, and join operators. Right. Oh, is this you? I've seen you hanging around, Crazy Driver. If this is you. Cool. Well, nice to see you on the stream. Hello, hello. I think that, to be honest, this is probably kind of a tricky one. I don't know. I think if I were to try to help you to do this on stream, I would probably struggle quite a bit, to be perfectly honest. I think this is kind of it's a pretty meaty problem. Let me see, what is it even saying? Implement the group by reordering rules in sections 3.1 and 3.2 of this paper. These sections show how to reorder group by with respect to inner and outer joins. What is this paper? Moving group by around an outer join. Removing correlations for scalar valued subqueries results in an outer join followed by a group by. Therefore, it is especially important for our optimizer to have primitives that allow reordering these two operators. I mean, I think the basic thing that you would have to do here is, first of all, you sort of have to figure out how these optimizer rules are sort of written. So I can give you like a basic reference into that. Let's see. Make this guy a bit bigger. Unrelated question, key traits you look for in interns, any tips for the interview? I think for interns, you have to be curious-minded, care about learning. You have to care about diving deep into systems. I think just being a generally good, if you do well in school, you have those common traits for people who are computer science students, study those algorithms, do well in your classes, maybe taking some systems classes that could help, but I don't know. I don't think I have any specific, there's nothing specific about our intern program that's like, we need you to have X number of years of database experience, or you need to have taken database classes. It's really just like generalists. We're looking for smart people who care about learning about system stuff. Can one buy the same keyboard? Yeah, if you look up Iris keyboard, you can check that out. Have I read the Coinbase blog post? I'm not going to get into that. I don't really like it. I don't like that attitude, but I don't really want to go on a long rant about that stuff. I think that would be pretty distracting. Anyway, so let me see. I wanted to show you kind of some of these normalization rules. So if you go into the package SQL opt package, so you can see like over here. Oh, and by the way, Crazy Driver, we had this really good talk by Rebecca Taft that she did recently on Andy Pavlo DB lectures quarantine. So I don't know if you guys have been watching any of these, but this is like an absolutely fantastic tech talk series. So I'm just going to paste this into here. But if you actually go and watch Rebecca's talk, which is down here at the bottom, CockroachDB's query optimizer. Wait, is it not on YouTube? I thought it was on YouTube already. Hold on. I think maybe they just haven't uploaded the links there. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, Crazy Driver, if you watch this talk, this is going to give you just a really good overview of the basic stages of CockroachDB's optimizer. It's an hour. I'm not going to be talking about this for an hour. So I would suggest taking a look at this talk, and you can learn a lot about the basic concepts that we're talking about here. So if you go back to this issue and you see how they're saying like normalization rules and exploration rules, I think those are some pretty fundamental concepts that you can learn about a little bit more just at a high level from watching that talk. So that's that. Once you actually kind of think about how those things work and you sort of get a sense for it, you can go into this package SQL opt area. And to get to the transformation rules, you can hit XForm rules. And then these are the sort of transformation rules that the optimizer has. And so you can see an example of them here. Groupby.opt contains exploration rules for the groupby operators. So here's one that says, replace scalar min max with limit replaces a min or max group by aggregation with a limit one on an ordered set. Okay, who knows what that means? Replaces a min or max group by aggregation with a limit one on, oh, okay. So that's actually kind of cool. So this is a really neat rule, right? It's basically saying if you're doing a group by and you want to get, for each group, the top item in that group, if you have an ordered set as an input to this thing, I guess you can replace it with just a select with a limit one. I guess that doesn't make, does that make sense in every, I don't really exactly see how you'd do that unless there was only like one group or something in the input. But anyway, you can sort of get the idea there. Yeah, use the sort of, yo, what's up, Nikon? Yeah, use the sort of index, grab the first value. Yeah, the only thing that's confusing is, of course, like this wouldn't work if there's actually any group by columns. And I'm sort of wondering whether this thing takes into account of that, or is it really just like, min of X over the whole table? I don't really know. But anyway, this is kind of an example of what this little domain-specific languages look like. It's sort of like a replacement rule kind of thing, where you have a expression that's written in this sort of S expression-like language. It's a scalar group by, it has any input. Here are some items. Maybe this is actually saying there's a single aggregation item that has a min or a max with a variable, anything in its private fields. This part I don't exactly get. But anyway, you can sort of take this and then it's almost like a regex, right? You're like taking this and replacing it with a limit on a select. I guess you need to check for not null for some reason. The limit has length 1. And presumably there's also something about the ordering in here. I just don't quite see where it is. No, it didn't. We're not related to Y Combinator. Random Kotka. Okay, so anyway, I think if you wanted to try to figure this stuff out, you would probably need to learn quite a bit about how those rules work. But yeah, I believe in you. I think you could do it. I think that if you especially ask in the contributors chat with some pointed questions, people will definitely get back to you. Yeah, no, of course. Always fun to chat. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I would know how to do this one either. I don't work on the optimizer too much. I've dabbled in it, but I don't work on it that much. So just trying to give you the overview that I know. Yeah, so for this guy, this one I really want to do at some point. It's definitely not closable at this point, but the idea here is that, you know, we want to make it so that people can't shoot themselves in the foot. You know, it's too easy right now to just insert giant values, and we know we don't do well with those. So like, yeah, we got to figure something out here. I mean, just for your reference, you can, you know, make a table with a string. I think it's like, you can put like a limit on the number of the length of a character column like this. And then if I try to say insert into foo values, and then something that has like more than 10 characters, I think it'll fail. Value too long for type char. I think the problem though is like not really this, but just having some global maximums that are tweakable for a row. You know, you can, even if you had like 200 columns and they all had, you know, I don't know, a kilobyte in them, then you'd have 200 kilobytes. I guess that's not that bad. Anyway, but maybe if it's like you had 210 kilobyte columns or something like that, you get into megabytes, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't think that that's really good for the database. You know, we try to recommend that you don't have big rows like that. So it's like, why do we not provide any controls to let you prevent yourself from doing that? So that's what this is about. I can kind of leave that one alone. Support expression-based index columns. Oh, this is such a cool one. I think this is, some people call this, yeah, you see it's got a lot of thumbs up. I think something fun about going through these old ones is that they do have a lot of support on them because they're usually pretty fundamental. But this is sort of like, you know, what do they call it? Not a computed. Yeah, I think it's like a virtual computed column, right? No, it's a computed index. So the idea is that instead of having to make a column that has, you know, some special computed trait and then index that, the idea is that you can make an index on some computed attribute. You don't have to restore that computed attribute in a separate column, but the index will automatically calculate this when it's inserting into itself. And furthermore, the optimizer can actually infer when to use this thing based on the properties of its input. So that's like a pretty cool one. I think somebody's working on that pretty soon. I think the idea is that we're hopefully trying to work on it in the next cycle, maybe, without promising anything. So I think this one's kind of going to come soon. Excited about it. Restarting servers with a smaller Cockroach max offset is incorrect. I don't know about that. Pretty cool and sounds complicated. Yeah, I think so. I think especially the inference stuff. So we do have a feature that page 128. Yeah, we're not going to go through everything. Just some of the old ones. But so there is a feature that we just shipped. Cockroach partial index. Partial indexes are going to be, they're kind of similar. So 20.2 isn't quite out yet, but it will be soon. But partial indexes, they have a similar sort of problem. What a partial index is it only lets you store, it only indexes data that satisfies a predicate. So I guess here's an example, create index on T where C is greater than 5. And so the optimizer actually has to infer based on its inputs when it can actually even use this index at all. Sometimes it can't, sometimes it can. And I think that there's some similarities between the problem of whether the partial index predicate is sort of satisfied by a query. There's some parallels between that question and whether a computed index is also usable in a query. cool to shrink the index when you just want to hide data instead of deleting it. Yeah, I agree. Yo, Celis de la Fuente, thank you for the follow. Hope I pronounced that right. So restarting with a smaller max offset is incorrect. I don't know about that too much. So support alter table set data type. I think this is one of these ones where we like kind of support some of it now, but not all of it. Yeah, I think we can kind of support. You know what? I think I need to hold on a second. I think I kind of want to be just going to be looking at this in an incognito window. So let's go back to 128 here. So I think we sort of support some of these in some cases, but not when it like has to completely rewrite all the data or something. Let's do a little demo. So we'll say create table a test change type a int 2. We'll say a int 8. And then I think if I said insert into test change type values, oops. I think I can say alter table. So this is, by the way, this is like a migration, right? You can change a column, alter column a set data type into. The idea of this migration is that you can change the data type of a column, right? Basic SQL stuff. I don't think that we alter column type from int to int2 is only supported experimentally. What is the deal with this again? It's kind of like we have like a prototype for this, but it's not like completely baked yet. Is that the idea? Move alter column type general support add as experimental. Yeah, I sort of feel like we can close this guy, right? So wait a minute. What happens when we run this and then try again? It's like a feature flag, right? It's sort of like we acknowledge this is still testing, but we're gonna do it anyway. Show create table, test change type, and 2. So the reason that this one's weird, right, is that it's gotta actually validate that all the data in the table is castable to an int2. So that's why it's kind of different. Casting up, I think, will sort of work every time. Like in this direction, it won't print anything weird out. Crazy Driver, I've done a lot of work in C# with IL generation for optimized type mapping. What is IL? When returning data from a database and also conversion of C# code into database queries. I use Cockroach at work, at Golang at work, so why not try working on a CockroachDB issue? Yeah, that's really awesome. I mean, I think that you picked an ambitious one. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't work on it, but it's, I think you should, yeah, I think it's ambitious. That's a good thing. IL, intermediate, what is IL? I'm guessing it's like code gen. You're talking about something where we, regardless of the type, we have some sort of efficient way of getting it without reflection or something like that. Intermediate language, assembly equivalent. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's very cool. You might be interested, I mean, the kind of closest thing that we have to that sort of thing in Cockroach is this like exec gen thing. I've done a bunch of that on stream, but the idea is that we have this execution engine that we kind of do with code generation. To try to make it work with every type without having to, Go doesn't really have generics. So we have this method to monomorphize code so that you can sort of write it once and have it work on all the different SQL data types. It's not exactly, I mean, I guess we're not really generating assembly, but yeah, it's kind of cool stuff. I was doing that a bunch on stream like a few months ago. Then I stopped. Dealing with SQL data types, it's kind of annoying, to be honest. Okay, UI, enable line graphs. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I wanted to sort of finish this off. Like, do we even need to have this issue open anymore? Is it important to have this open? Update table set. It's like ancient. There's still some work left to be done for cases where the column is part of an index, has a constraint, and it's currently not supported inside a transaction. I don't know. I think I'll just stick a comment on this guy. What did we call that flag again? It was called the... Right. All right. Enable line graphs with log Y scale. We definitely haven't done this. Seems useful. Metrics. Wanted histograms for skewed distributions. So I think this is about, we have these internal metrics histograms. And I guess the implementation that we use for these histograms doesn't do a very good job of, yeah, I guess if it's a big maximum, all the small sizes end up in a single bucket because the range is very large. That is kind of an interesting problem. Isn't there something called an HDR histogram? What is this? I've heard of this. I feel like we used this at my last job. A histogram that supports recording and analyzing sampled data counts across a configurable integer value range with configurable value precision within the range. Wait, maybe this is already what we use though, right? I think this is what we already use, isn't it? HDR histogram. Are we actually using this thing though? I think we are, right? Yeah, we do. So I guess I'm kind of curious.
Too big. I have to narrow down the search. How are you going to do that?
Hey, Crazy Driver, thanks for the follow. Yeah, I think, it's kind of like either we, at this time, we're using there's a little bit of history, like archaeological spelunking to do here. It's I'm sort of confused about whether the complaint here was that the histograms that we were using at this point were not this HDR histogram type, which I think do pretty well with this problem. It's either that or they were HDR histograms at this point and like they just kind of didn't work for our purposes. So I'm sort of curious. Metric.histogram. So I think they were using this kind of histogram, right? So if I go to metric.histogram, I don't think that this was ever not an HDR histogram. So honestly, I feel like we just have to leave this and do nothing with it. This is the sort of thing where it's like we could just close it. I mean, I wish I could ask KNZ what he thinks, but realistically, I don't think this is closable. So I'll ignore it. Support view queries with star expansions. I definitely don't think we still support this. This is quite a nuisance, honestly. So the idea is that this is such a kind of bad problem. If somebody wanted to work on something tricky, this would be a good one. So if I say create, let's see. So I've got this table here. Select A from test change type limit 1. That's going to give me this. So if I could say create view v as select A from test change type limit 1. So if you're familiar with views in SQL, they just sort of let you express, they let you make a table-like thing out of a query, right? So if I could say now select star from V, that's going to give me the same thing as this sort of subquery that I define the view as. And it's not like materialized in a sense, meaning that if test change type changed, then it would also change, right? It's like actually just running this query under the hood. It just looks like a table. Thing is, I can't do this. I can't say create view v2 as select star from test change type, I don't think. And it links back to this issue. And the reason for this is just so bad. It's just that when we actually run this thing, we don't pre-expand the star in a sense. And we end up actually storing this expression serialized in the view definition. And the problem with that is that if then the number of columns on the underlying table changed, then the number of columns on the underlying view would also change. And I think that people don't like or expect that behavior. And it's super confusing. So instead of making that happen, we sort of just said, sorry, you can't use stars in view definitions for now. I mean, honestly, the fix for this just wouldn't be that hard. It would be like you'd want to denormalize this star, like when analyzing it to make this view expression. And then you'd save that instead of saving this star at all. But we just haven't gotten to it yet. It's been around for so long. I'm kind of curious why we haven't done that. People should just not use star in views. Yeah, I mean, that's probably true, but like, it's a matter of principle, you know, you got to have everything work. KNZ actually has a PR open for this. It's an old PR. Wonder why we didn't. I was the reviewer. Well, this is embarrassing. I don't know why we didn't exactly do this. Oh, it's because this is like a much bigger change. I kind of wish we could just do that thing where we normalize it, you know, ahead of time. What's up, JV Peak? Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's not so bad. It was a real car alarm. It was a real car alarm. Out of curiosity, what does Postgres do here? So I'll say create table view test int create table create view v as select star from view test. Drop table v. Drop view v. Can't drop a view with drop table. Okay, then if I say alter table, wait, insert into view test values 1, alter table, well, first select star from v, alter table view test add column b int. Okay, so it kind of, yeah, it doesn't get the new column. And I think there's like a dv sort of thing, dv, v? How do I like get the view expression? Postgres get view expression. Well, how the heck am I supposed to Postgres view details? View is such a bad word. Ah, here we go. How to see the create view code for a view. D plus view name. Okay, well, that's obvious. Obviously, I should have. Okay, yeah, so you see that it gets rid of the star. It denormalizes the star. So I would like to do that too. I don't think that there's any obstacles, so I'm just going to continue commenting what I was going to comment. That seems to be the same thing as what Postgres does, and I don't see why we couldn't do it today. All right. Peak user experience design. Yeah, you just have to memorize like several dozen. Do you want to see something really scary? I think if I just do / it's going to give me like dozens and dozens of these 2-digit codes that you just have to memorize. Look at all this. What, you don't remember DES? DEU? DEW? It's simple, easy to remember. Anyway, that's kind of why we cloned the show create stuff from MySQL. It's just a lot easier to remember that stuff, I think. Support renaming objects dependent on by views. Yeah, this is a more serious thing. We can't really deal with this right now. Dem remote servers. Investigate / tune raft election timeout setting. Oh, seriously? That's so funny. I didn't know that. Support creating a database as duplicate of another. Don't think that people use this too often. So we've just ignored it. Oh, it was a joke. Okay. It's hard to tell jokes in text chat, honestly. Clean up local range addressing terminology. Don't know much about that. Show estimated schema change progress. Now, I did think we kind of did this, didn't we? I thought we did this. Did we not do this already? All right, so let's make an example. Use TPCH. Show tables. So here's a big old table, line item, and I think it'll take a little while to make an index on it, hopefully. Show create table line item. So if I were to say, yeah, I think it should show in the DOB shop. I just wanted to kind of do a demo of it. Exactly. I do think we kind of have this as a progress thing already, but let me just see if I can make an example on stream. So if I say create index on foo on line item of maybe the comment field. Whoops. I do believe that over here we'll get a progress bar, right? Populating schema. I mean, this seems a little suspicious. Oh, you can hardly see that. Shoot, it's obscured behind my face. This seems a little suspicious. I do think that we're supposed to have progress. And I think in normal cases we do. So I'm actually a bit curious about what's going on there. It's pretty suspicious. I gotta say that that's suspicious and I'm not so happy about it. I wonder if that's a bug. I wonder if that's a new bug. Drop index foo. Oh yeah, this is the GC job, so that's fine. Let me just try this one more time. I wonder if we already have an issue for that, actually. I'm running on like a random development head too, so it's possible that this has already been fixed. populating schema. Yeah, something's seeming a little bit suspicious. I think I'll make a new issue for that at some point. But I think in order to make a new issue, we're going to have to close some old ones, right? It's like for every new issue open, you need to close 2 old ones. That would be the dream. But I think this is closable, right? Because I think theoretically we're supposed to have this. So I think I can close this out. No one said it had to do anything. Okay, monitor memory usage by KV batches and write intents. It's pretty relevant to that memory monitoring stuff we've been talking about on stream for the past couple of weeks. I think, in fact, there's a better issue for this now. I might close this one. What is that newer issue called again? Let's see. KV memory monitoring. I guess there isn't an other issue for it. That's kind of interesting. I sort of thought there was. I guess this is not quite done yet. Okay. Automatic SQL consistency checker. We know about that. Skip this one. Improve overload resolution and support more uses of colligated strings. This is something that definitely has not gotten done. Support rolling back nested transactions containing schema change is also something that definitely has not been done. So there's a couple of, yeah, there's like a bunch of these things that it's like, I know about them, definitely can't close them. There's like a bunch of them in the first 3 pages that I was like, oh man, a lot of these are closable. So I sort of got excited. I was like, okay, I think there's gonna be a bunch of things that we can close out all of a sudden. Yo, Lithium, what's up? New streaming hour. I'm just trying something new. I don't know. I think I've been doing the, Friday, Sunday thing. I think it got a little controversial. Internal controversy. So I'm trying out some random other days. I think I might just try to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more random. I think it's kind of fun anyway. Do one on the weekday. But how are you doing? Nice to hear from you. eGPU with your MacBook? That sounds, I think you were talking about that. That does sound really cool. I feel like I could use that. It's like reproed on 1.1.5. It's like this version is not even like a thing anymore, really. 49-inch monitor with no issues. Guess we can't close this. Okay, so the idea with this one is that at the very front edge of time series data, if there's no data point, instead of showing no data, it shows the last valid point, which I think is like a good strategy some of the time, but in this case, it's a bad strategy. And I think there's not consensus about how to fix it. It's kind of what it seems like to me. So nothing to do about that one. Feature request set update interval. I think there's like a bunch of these. We kind of made this time series thing, right? I mean, I show it off often. It's pretty good, but I think that we haven't really updated it ever after the beginning that it was implemented at. I think it's like pretty good, but it's sort of hard to say like, okay, we really want to compete with Grafana or something. Like nobody really wants to say that we're gonna, keep investing to make something as good as Grafana. I do think that if you're running this in a production setting, you should really, use we export Prometheus metrics as well. So probably you're going to want to get these metrics into your Prometheus and your Grafana anyway. This is handy. It doesn't feel like we can really try to make something as good as Grafana though, just like for this embedded thing. I don't know. It's like unclear how much you should really invest in this stuff. Feel bad to close these ones, even though I kind of think that we're never going to fix them. Do you guys ever have that problem? It's like things that you're never going to fix. What do you do with it? It's kind of the thing. Don't show decimal places for integral values. Is this still a problem? This doesn't seem to be a problem anymore, does it? Oh, it kind of does, right? Yeah, it's like SQL connections is never going to go to 0.3. It's always going to be an integer. But how come this one is integral, right? Sort of like you should be able to customize one of them to be integral. Yo, Haratalk. I don't work on anything open source, but our backlog where it explodes things that are actual problems that we should fix but never will. That is trouble. Things that are more complicated than they're worth, edge case, yeah. I mean, there's still some value in keeping stuff like this open in case somebody else finds it, especially if it's open source, right? They're going to be like, oh man, what is this weird problem? They'll Google for it, it'll come up on GitHub, and then they can be like, oh, this happened to me. So that's like sometimes the value of keeping these things open. But in other cases, it's like very unclear where you should really keep them open or not, I think. And this is kind of an interesting one. With this one, it's almost like we want to like it's kind of like we want to have a way to, okay, so let's like look at one of these metrics. An example metric would be what? An example metric that we were just looking at, active distributed SQL queries. So I think if I just go to my code and I search active distributed SQL queries, we'll come up with something, right? So this is the TypeScript file that defines which kind of graph to render, right? It's almost as if like we want to make it so that we can customize one of these line graphs to not have decimals, which doesn't seem like that crazy. Like you could be able to say, have an attribute on it that says don't render the intermediate floats. On the other hand, you could also make it so that like this metric has such an attribute, right? It's like you could sort of say, if I search sql.dissql.queries.active, right? Oops. Oh my God, oh no, never mind. sql.dissql.queries.active. So somewhere we should have defined this in a Go file, I think. It's like so slow for some reason. Is it this one? Okay, so it's a metric.metadata. Number of distributed SQL queries currently active queries. Unit is a unit count. Count expresses that the metrics measurement is a count. I mean, this is already a lot of information because you can't really have fractional count a lot of the time, right? So it's almost as if like we want to find metric metadatas that have unit count and like force them to not be floats, something like that. Yeah, it's Golang, exactly. I don't think that that would be that crazy, right? The only problem is that when you go to this TypeScript file, you know, you're jumping into this metric and all you have is its sort of string name, right? And like when we actually go to get it, what the heck is this? Render component should never render? Should contain axes and children and use them only informationally without rendering them. Huh? I don't quite get that. Maybe like the line graph figures it out somehow. It like looks at its axes and then renders. I guess that sort of makes sense. But out of curiosity, like when I go to make this graph, like where does it sort of get the time series information? And when it does that, does it get the time series metadata? If it does, then I feel like we'd have enough information to figure this stuff out, right? Init line chart. Where do I get the time series data, right? Mouse move, mouse leave, draw chart, draw line. Visibility change. Render. Where do I get... time series response. I mean, that seems... What is inside of a time series response? This is kind of the question. It's got some I results. It's just got a bunch of I results. An I result is a query and data points. Huh. So it it doesn't really seem like it gives you back that metadata, which is a little bit sad. So what I'm talking about is basically, look, over back in this file, we've helpfully defined all of this stuff here. But it doesn't really seem like these get propagated all the way back, do they? Number of distributed SQL queries currently active. Kind of seems like the UI writes its own help text, and we never... So who uses this help thing? Return m.help. I'm learning all sorts of stuff. Get help. Does anybody call this? Counter with metric, get help. Nobody ever calls this. That's super funny. Okay, so we've gone through all this trouble for writing this help string and then nobody ever calls it. Is that for real? Oh no, that might not be for real because somebody could call it from the TypeScript, right? So hold on a minute. Maybe there's still a chance that this will work. So there should be, so like this is protobuf generated code, right? And I think that there's an equivalent one in TypeScript. So if I search metric.pb. Metric. What is it called again? I feel like normally there is a file that's generated by protobuf for each protobuf in TypeScript and in Go, if you know what I mean. Metric data response message. What's this? This seems promising, right? Metric metadata response. Gives me back an iMetric metadata response, which has metadata. Okay. Metadata has, name, help, measurement. Okay, cool. So it actually does have some of this stuff. And do we use help anywhere? Custom chart, descriptions, metadata K, metadata.help. Okay, so I guess selector which computes drop-down options based on the metrics which are currently being stored in the cluster. Is this what would need modifying for the count? This looks pretty promising, doesn't it? Nice find. Wait a minute. So graphs.tsx, right? Graphs.ts. Calculate y-axis domain. Well, it looks like, okay, so interesting. We've got the default being this count axis domain thing. I'm a little confused though, you know, because like, I feel like these are different. First of all, they're differently ordered, right? Like in Go, they're sort of written like this. And the TypeScript, they're written in a different order. So maybe there's a translation. I feel like we have to change feeds hardware. Oh, look at this. This is interesting, isn't it? Axis units.count. So out of curiosity, if I were to go to another one of these guys that uses axis units.count, is that sort of fixed? Because maybe that would imply that all we have to do is change a bunch of these things to be counts. Replica GCQ. Where is this one? This one lives in queues. Replica GCQ. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sort of seems like it's still busted though. Look, so here's the replica GCQ. We can see that the actions axis is labeled here with the count units. And yet it's got this sort of ugly looking float business. And in addition, yeah, actions per second. And it makes sense that you would have a float number of actions per second, I guess, but yeah, wait a minute. Does this even need to be changed though? If you have something per second, then it like, yeah, of course you can have a fractional quantity. I don't really get this. Don't show decimal places for, I mean, this node count is like a completely different one, right? Like node count makes sense that you would never want. Anything that it's like per second though, you would not want that. I don't know. Do we even have that one anymore? Where is that? Is it distributed? Batches, RPCs. Is there like a node count graph anymore? Maybe we just like deleted it. Count int. Yeah, it could be. I mean, on the other hand, like, does this even make sense as a count units, honestly, because it's really more of it's a rate. It's exactly right. Like this is a rate unit. This is a count unit. Pending actions. That's always going to be integral. I don't know. This stuff is complicated. This is the sort of thing where it's like, oh my God, do we need to really bother fixing this for such a little nit? Look how complicated the solution is, right? It's like audit every single metric and make sure that like, you know, whether you're talking about a rate or an integer quantity. I don't know. I don't know. Guess we'll leave it open. Add support page. What is a support page? Ah. Help me. I think this one we probably have finished, right? Did we just get rid of it altogether? I don't know. Ignore that one. Python 3 Postgres driver error. Oh yeah, this is kind of a classic thing that we've seen a bunch. Sort of this protocol mismatch thing that sometimes happens when pgwire gets confused. Does it still happen? Does it still happen? Is it about cancellation? Oh yeah, so this is right. Okay, so basically the idea with this guy is that there's a protocol for canceling queries in Postgres. We mostly try to follow the Postgres wire protocol, meaning that we should be able to understand the message types and so on that Postgres sends, or that Postgres client send, and likewise we should be able to be sending back the same sorts of responses that Postgres sends back to its clients. There's a particular kind of query, so you can sort of look at this stuff if you feel like it. If you go to Postgres wire protocol, I think it's called Postgres front-end back-end protocol. It's a pretty nice document on the Postgres website. Where is it? I always forget exactly which page it is. I think it's message formats. So this is a big page that has all the different kinds of messages that Postgres can send to the client and vice versa. And I think what's happening with this one, it says expected message of type K, but received Z instead. So if you look for what is Z, is there no Z? Oh, I think it's like this. Okay, so ready for query B, byte 1Z, identifies the message type. Ready for query is, wait a minute, did I read that backwards? Did I read that backwards? K, not Z. So Z is a normal one. Ready for query happens all the time. That sort of says like, okay, we're done with the current kind of message flow and we're ready to begin a new one. This one is very different. Identifies the message as cancellation key data. The front end must save these values if it wishes to be able to issue cancel requests later. So the idea with this is that when we start up a session, the server, the Postgres server sends back a piece of information that says to the client, hey, here is my process ID, and here is my secret key. And the idea with this one is that, so, you know, Postgres has this sort of single process model thing where like if you start up a connection, you're going to get your own process ID. It's all integrated with Unix, so you can sort of kill a process ID, and that's the same thing as killing a connection. The idea is that you want to be able to give clients a way to cancel queries out of bound, or out of band, excuse me. So the idea being if you have a stuck query and you can't, you know, close a connection for some reason, you could open up another connection and send a cancel request with the process ID and this quote unquote secret key. This is available so that you can't have people just spamming a server trying to cancel every PID in the server, because there's only, you know, some finite number. I guess it's an int32's worth of process IDs. I think it's less actually, but anyway. The problem is that we can't really implement this too easily in Cockroach because 64 bits isn't like enough to provide like a totally unique query ID across all of the nodes in a cluster. We've had like a lot of arguments about this. And let's see. So I think this is the big issue that tries to capture this stuff. And I think the idea is that it's just a bit, wait a minute. I think this was the PR that had most of the conversation. It's just kind of tricky to try to figure out what to stuff into those 64 bits. So we sort of stalled doing that for now. And then the trouble is that I think in this case of this particular Postgres driver, the Python 3 PyPostgreSQL driver error, it expects always to get a type K message, and we don't send one, so it blows up. And we can't just send an arbitrary type K message because I think it'll really confuse clients. So we don't. So this sort of remains. I mean, honestly, I feel like we should just send back like 00 or something, and then like this would be fixed for this particular person. But I don't know. I think there's reasons why we haven't done that. It's kind of a bummer though. Yeah. Yo, MD Layer, how's it going? We're doing some issue triage. It's pretty fun. We're like revisiting the past, you know? We're going deep into the past. I kind of feel like, could we fix this? Yeah, PsychoPG2, we care quite a bit about the compatibility of that one. This one's like a little bit more unusual. PsychoPG2 is our recommended driver. Backend key data, is that what it's called? Clients already received an error when trying to cancel a query using the Postgres cancellation protocol. So if they tried to use our obviously false backend key data, they'd after such a PR, no behavior would really change. Okay, let's move on. Investigate auto-splitting large values across KV pairs. Yet another thing about large values, huh? It's kind of an interesting theme, isn't it? So again, the idea with this one is that really big values in SQL tend to cause us problems. I mean, this is sort of a weird way of doing it though, right? So I don't know if this would really help us in that particular scenario. The idea is that if you have a big row, 16 megabytes or something, we have problems with that. But if we just split that 16 megabytes across several KV pairs, in most cases, you'd still need to load all those KV pairs to do anything, in which case you have to wonder whether this would really gain you anything. I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're really smart about it and you stream everything, I'm not really sure. I feel like this might want to be revived at some point and thought about again. Allow large values to be pulled out of a family to separate KV upon insertion row by row. Yeah. I don't know. I think this would probably want to be done by SQL and not KV. I almost think we should maybe like put this guy into a different project so we can remember. We can come back to it later. Maybe I'll just stick it into the execution board. Oops. We might want to consider this again in the not so distant future to help people who are trying to having issues with. How do I make this English sentence work? We're trying to store. I'll just go like this. Store. This is parenthetical statements. Writing is not working for me. Okay, help people who are trying to store large values in rows and having memory usage and other issues from doing so. All right. Keep a per range history of replica and lease changes. Don't know about that. UI expose information about rebalancing decisions. Now, I do think that we've done something recently about this, haven't we? Cockroach makes a lot of automated decisions about where to place replicas and leases within a cluster. While we hope that these decisions improve performance, it's possible we could occasionally make bad decisions. So I think that we have something for this now. Going through old issues can be useful. Yeah, I think it's kind of fun. It shows you, sometimes you find duplicate stuff, you remember things that other people have thought of in the past that are going to help you with problems that you have rediscovered but forgot about the sort of prior art for. So I thought we had something called this thing. Simulated allocator runs on a specific node. Maybe that's not really all that relevant. What does this do? I've never really looked at this. Simulated allocator run. So the allocator, the idea of the allocator, I believe, is that it's the piece of code that attempts to move the location of replicas across the cluster. And I think the idea with this issue is that we wanted a way to help people understand what the allocator was doing, more or less, right? I'm just gonna ping a person who I know has been thinking about this recently. I feel like this might be just a totally mal-fitted comment, but I'm just gonna ask it anyway. That's okay. Can always ask a question, right? Visually correlate events with graphs. This is another thing, right? I was talking a bit earlier about how we have made this whole time series program and not really enhance it too much. Definitely don't think we've done anything on this, nor do we really have plans to. It's always a little bit heartbreaking when you find like a big comment that has like 10 million checkboxes, none of which are checked, and you know that nobody's working on any of the check marks. Just looks like we never really got this done. All right. Provide every important graphs with a hover that shows you a histogram. Oh, that's a cool idea. Also something we never did. Also not going to close it. Over-aggressive replicate queue purgatory checks? No idea what this is about. Looks like someone else knows about it though. You don't want to overstep your bounds. I have no idea what this is. I don't want to just go closing random stuff. I'll get in trouble. Show graph of the number of outstanding requests on main cluster page. This I know a little bit more about. SQL requests getting queued up because of a problem. I mean, one thing that's kind of interesting here is that we don't really have concept at the SQL level of queued queries. We have them in one spot. In this, there's something called the dist SQL flow limit. And if we exceed the dist SQL flow limit, we back off on making new dist SQL flows. But most of the time, we don't really have such a back off thing. I've been talking about this a bunch on stream as well. I think that this feels like a closable thing. So I think I might just go ahead and close it and see if anybody really cares. All right. We don't really have a well-defined concept of outstanding. I mean, I guess we sort of have like active queries, right? But we already have graphs for that. Besides just the graph of active queries, which we have separately. We also have graphs that show the count of dist SQL flows in the system, which is a somewhat relevant quantity. Overall, I don't think we know. I'll close this for now. But if there's something specific we were looking for that I am missing, please feel free to reopen. Is it active queries or active distributed queries, or are they the same things? Yeah, so active distributed queries, the idea with that one is that it's the number of queries that are using the sort of dist SQL distribution stuff. They're not quite the same. Many queries, especially if they're OLTP style point queries, can be satisfied without a quote unquote distributed query. I do think it's confusing that we have those two graphs separately. You have to sort of wonder, like, what is the deal with this when you look at it every time? But they are not, yeah, they're not the same. I think you mean there's SQL queries here, and there's this active distributed SQL queries thing. I think that's pretty confusing. You're probably right that we should clean that up, or at least provide a better tooltip. But I mean, neither of those things are really particularly relevant to this one. Keep that guy closed. By the way, hello, George193. Nice to see you again. Active non-distributed. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, okay, so we'll do a quick example. So if I say, okay, so now I have a load generator that's doing 100% queries that should be satisfiable without distributed SQL. So if I go back to the web UI, I should see now I'm doing 10K selects a second or so, 12K something. 20 active queries. I'm actually a little bit confused on what this is. This might be something else random. I'm pretty sure that this cluster, this load generator, doesn't do anything that needs to use. Huh. Maybe what this is actually saying, this is such a confusing metric. You're totally right. This makes no sense. I feel like this is probably a number that's trying to track. Do we have 20 concurrent connections on this load generator? Is that what's happening here? Yeah, we have 25 connections, but at least a few of them, at least one of them is something that is just like one of my terminals open or something. Oh, you know what I bet it is? I bet this is sort of just like, if there is a, I think, okay, sorry, I'm just babbling, totally babbling. I think what's confusing is that this is a graph about the number of things that are happening per second. And this is a graph of the number of total active things at any given moment in time. So the idea is that even if we were doing, some number of things per second, that would never change here as long as if we're satisfying all 25 of our open connections, it's going to be capped at 25. Whereas this one is, it's like it's a rate. It's more like a rate, and this is more like a gauge. I do think that we need to, this makes no sense, right? This needs to say queries per second, right? And this one needs to say, total active queries or something like that. That's a good point. That's a very good point. I mean, that seems like something that we could probably fix in like 5 seconds, right? So why not? So active distributed SQL queries, the total number of distributed SQL queries currently running. This should really be saying like, so in a support conversation mentioned that the more important thing was not so much the number of connections open, but the number of connections which are active at any given one time. So I do think that you're right, which is that this guy is that. Active distributed SQL queries. Confusing title, but I do think that it's the name of the quote unquote active number, active connections, active. I mean, I almost think that this should just be called active connections, right? Just SQL.queries at active. I think at the minimum, this should really just say active queries. How do you specify an axis that's a gauge, right? Like, I don't know the terminology for that. Do you? Like an instantaneous count of the active queries is never going to exceed the number of active connections. Whereas up here, this is like queries per second. Yeah, I think we need to rename it, just like you're saying. I mean, I think this should really be saying... It's confusing because like I do think that this is essentially the concept that we're going for with this active connections thing. But the problem is that the metric that is being used for that is sort of like a different thing. It happens to mean the same thing, but I'm just a little concerned that like if we ever change the meaning of this metric, it won't track with the title of the graph. I'll send a PR for this though and see what people say. Concurrent queries. Yeah. Well, I'll see what people say about this. I think this is a good point. Active connections or active queries is better for the access label. Yeah, I agree. Let me make a new branch for this. Oops, did I just delete my... That was dumb. I guess we don't really say per second in other spots, so I'll just get rid of this. But in any case, I think this will be good. So let's see. Active queries tooltip. Not really the greatest branch name. Increase clarity for active queries time series. rename the, what did I call it before? It was called active Well, it's a little bit confusing. And at an instantaneous moment. It's a little bit confusing because like one could also quibble about what if there's a connection that's open, that's holding open a transaction but idle? Would that show up in this graph? And the answer today is that it would not show up in this graph. But then you might argue that the title of the graph is still misleading. I don't know. Let's like keep that for now and kind of move on with our lives. But thank you for that feedback. I think that's a really good point. Should be fixable without too much trouble. Where was I? I was over here. One thing I noticed when using Cockroach is that under execution sets, there's no distinction between the execution time and the time transferring the result. Yeah, so that's that's true. But the problem, well, that's not the problem, but like the thing that makes it confusing is that the results are streamed. So it's also concurrent. So like the time that's spent executing the query is happening. It's sort of like, yeah, happening at the same time as the results are streamed, especially in the case of large queries. So it's like a little bit unclear like what to report. Like I think if you were doing it naively, you'd end up with a sum that's bigger than the total amount of time that you spent doing the query like in real time in a sense. And I feel like that would be confusing for people. Yeah, I don't really know. Like it sort of feels like you want, yeah, I don't know. You sort of want to like to take the execution time and then like add on the extra time that it took to stream the rest of the results or something like that. But I think that's kind of hard to calculate in the first place. So I think this should be closed now. Cool. Log events for all DDL statements. I think this is fixed. So the question is whether those statements show up in this thing called the event log, which exists somewhere. Where is that event log? We used to have this event log thing that kind of lived high up, and now I sort of forget. Did it get moved somewhere else? To the side on overview? What happened to this event log? Ah. Head to the office, still thing here in New Zealand. Cool, okay, enjoy, have a great day. Thanks for stopping in. Ah, but okay, so it sort of does seem like there's still some missing events here. There is no rename event. Seems like we should fix this. It probably seems like yet another thing that's like not too hard to fix, just like a little bit of missing polish. Table rename, do we do that? What happened to my UI page? Did I close it? Here it is. Yeah, so there's a create but no rename, huh? Wow, there's some truth to these issues. This is the dream, right? Okay. Whoops, this is not the right thing. This guy, 13,492. Add benchmarks for schema change backfill execution. Pretty easy to add. Yeah, totally. Crazy Driver, if you want to make your first PR, if you haven't made one already. I think you have made one, right? Didn't I see you in the repo? Can't remember. But you should feel free. That can be you if you want to do it. Oh, whoops. So what happens when you type on stream, right? Thank you. I actually think that this might be a good... So there's this like Hacktoberfest thing, right? And like people are looking for issues to do. I feel like this might be a good one for that. JB Pratt, what's up? How's it going? You did one a while, was close but never managed to finish it. What was that? I really feel like people have done this, right? Okay. This one somebody should really do. I feel like this could also be a decent... Oh yeah, somebody I think did something like this, right? But they didn't quite finish it. Well, nothing to do about it. 1976. Oh, this is like old school, dude. You've been hanging around for some time. That's like an old 1967, 2017. Allowed. Oh, yeah, this is some tough stuff. This is some tough stuff for sure. I mean, we're still working hard on how to make schema changes more transactional. That's like a big part of what we're trying to do in the next 6 months, actually. It's very tricky to get this stuff right. Very, very hard. I think like the way that it works right now is there's like quite a few sort of hacks that are in place to make this stuff work, but we're trying to like kind of redo it in the next 6 months or so to have a more robust foundation so that we don't have to like hack around some of this stuff anymore. I'm looking forward to it. Some test was failing. Yeah, it happens. Support Diesel RS. Who's a Rust person? Any Rust people in the chat? SQL save points. I think it's now, we have SQL save points, right? This is like the wrong link. Oh, unless this thing actually does depend on rolling back nested transactions containing schema changes, which we still can't do. Can't recreate drop table within same transaction. Uses a stored procedure to automatically populate and update that field. Yeah, I'd be curious if this can kind of run. Diesel looks so rudimentary. I mean, I'm kind of curious, what would happen if we ran the tests? I bet they'll still fail or something. Let's see. So how do we clone this thing? So how do we run the tests of this thing exactly? Diesel tests. Is there like a cargo test I can do? I'm not really a Rust programmer, so I don't know how to do anything, but I know about cargo test. And I kind of wonder if it'll run like integration tests or if it'll just run unit tests. We'll find out, I guess. Kind of fun. Updating crates.io index. Who knows what it's doing? Is this like what happens when you type brew update? It has to like do, oh my gosh. Okay, in order to run Diesel, we have to first compile the universe, it seems. Kind of cool. This kind of reminds me of running Arch Linux. It's like, in order to get anything, you have to compile everything. It's like, why does it have to compile all this stuff exactly? I thought that crates are binary. Did I make that up? About since like 2016. Yeah, I'm confused, guys. Isn't it? I thought it was the case that you don't have to recompile all crates in Rust. Or is it the opposite? Or do you compile everything in Rust? I don't know. I don't know. Rust crate binary? Installing binaries from crates with cargo install. Allows you to install and use binary crates locally. Can only install packages that have binary. Oh, this is like the other sense of the word binary, right? This is like a runnable binary. I guess I mean to say like binary libraries or something. Always compile much like Go? Fascinating. I guess I just was wrong. I was wrong. Okay, we've made it to Diesel itself. I wonder if there's like a contributing.md. I would like to figure out how to run the tests. I feel like that's the most important thing. Contributing code, setting up Diesel locally. Create an N file. This seems important, right? We can make an N file. Add the connection details for your databases. Docker compose. Bin test. This guy works for Cockroach. Fascinating. So I guess we can just run like this. Okay, so what the heck? A bunch of errors. Well, that's not good. That's not good, you guys. I can't much do anything if I get compile errors. Maybe I need to get a tag or something. 1.4.5. Git checkout 1.4.5. No, git branch. How do I get local remote branches, get fetch tags or something? Brews default Rust installation might be old. I think I have like Rust up or whatever, right? Can't I how do I figure out what version of Rust I should be compiling this thing with? Diesel supports Rust. Maybe I just have to do update, Rust up, update? Uh-oh. We're on nightlies. We're on nightlies. We're recompiling the world. Do I regret this? Should I not do this? Well, this is fun. We get to play with Rust toolchain for a second. Create a .env. Okay, we can do that. Oh, there we go. Well, let's try again then. I bet this will have to redo everything, right? Presumably, yes. Okay, so let's copy this guy to this. We'll edit this one. We'll say PG database URL. So we want to set this to like root at localhost 26.257 diesel test. Sure. Diesel example. All right. No, it's the same kind of problem, huh? Dude, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with this? Can't run the tests for this thing, so don't know what to say. Not gonna figure this one out. What if I try this bin test thing? Maybe that'll kind of work automatically. Maybe cargo test doesn't actually work in this repo. Holy crap. This seems just super busted, you guys. This is a rabbit hole, and I'm gonna skip it. Well, it was fun while it lasted. I'm giving up. Like, what am I exactly supposed to do? It just seems like super broken. Okay, wait. Let's try one more time. We'll check out master and try it one more time. Seems a bit rusty, right? Maybe it'll work on master. Maybe the problem was that this 1.4.5 doesn't work with the latest nightly. That wouldn't surprise me, I guess, right? This seems to be a little bit happier. All this green, no red in sight. Or would you call this a yellow? It's like looking a little yellow. A little more yellow than green, I think. It's like a little phlegm. Not the most pleasant yellow. So we're gonna make a diesel test. Is that what it was called? Diesel underscore test and diesel underscore example. Uh-oh. Oh, what's all this? This actually looks like maybe it's running tests on the database, which is cool. So let's see. If we run with log to standard error. I think we also want vmodule equals exec log equals 2. Now it's going to dump all the queries that it gets. So I think if I run this again, yeah, okay, so it's actually sending queries to Cockroach. That's pretty cool. And so there's a few failures, but not too many. Transaction depth is tracked properly on commit failure. Queries with SQL literal nodes are not cached. Intervals match PG values F64 times with time zones. So this is actually seeming pretty good. Like I think it's pretty common that there's a few little minor incompatibility things with data types and whatnot. But I think this is actually likely quite a bit farther than we got earlier. So maybe we should at least copy some of this stuff in so that people can see what I just did here. So let's see. I guess we could try to read some of these failures. Test queries with SQL literal nodes are not cached. Received more than 4 bytes, decoding I32. Was a big int expression accidentally identified as integer? That's interesting. What is this test doing? So it says, what the heck? What is this saying? Queries with SQL. Does anybody know how to run just a single test? What does this bin test do? Cargo test features Postgres, no default features. Wait a minute. How would I run source PG connection? So what if I just say this? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what any of this stuff does. So what if I just run this? What happens? No. Not allowed in the root of a virtual workspace. Okay. So maybe I have to be here. JB Pratt. Cargo test name of test. I will try that. It seems like this is different though. Because like, why is it having to recompile a bunch of stuff? I don't know. I just kind of wish it told me which, oh, that did something. Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, cool. So this is working then. So you're saying if I just put the name of the test, maybe it'll work. Queries with SQL. Well, I think that kind of worked, right? So let's clear all this stuff. Run this again. What do we get? Set time zone equals UTC, set client encoding, and then we just say select one. And then it claims received more than 4 bytes. Oh, you know what the problem is that the default integer width in Cockroach is 64 bits, and the default integer width in Postgres is 32 bits. So it's just sort of like a problem that's, we're not even running into the problem that the test is trying to test for. We're running into like a sort of more silly problem. So I mean, presumably we could fix their test if we felt like it, right? I mean, we could say, well, I don't know what this is saying. SQL, I mean, I don't know how Diesel works, so maybe I'll just ignore this for now. But in any case, I think presumably we could just fix this in the test and make it specify, give me a 64-bit one, or give me a 32-bit one, rather than asking for the default. So let's look at some other ones. Intervals match PG values. That sort of seems a little bit more interesting to me. We should always be, quote unquote, matching PG values. What is this stuff? Okay, macro rules. Wow. Okay, rather than try to understand that, let's just run the test and see what SQL it emits. How about intervals match PG values? Oh wow, it runs quite a lot. So it fails on F64. Well, unfortunately, I don't really know. Argument minus 82. Oh, this is kind of cool. So are you saying that if I run... Is this what this is doing? I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what it's doing. Is that value... Is this value like in the log somewhere? It is. So maybe it's saying that the input has to equal the output. Is that what it's saying? What if I do... So this one didn't fail, right? Oh, and it's asking for the number of years. Very interesting. So if I say this... If I say this... Okay, well, how am I supposed to... So in a sense, this kind of round trips. The question, I guess, is like, if I ask for this, and it says it wants this in the quantity of years. So if I say this number of negative years, then like, what is the problem exactly? Oh, you know what we could do is we could run it against Postgres, because presumably we're just doing something wrong, right? Edge case intervals are always super fun. So Postgres says minus 82 years, minus 10 days, minus 5 hours, 5 minutes, 59 seconds. Okay, these two look identical to me. Right? Oh wait, I wanted to run this one though. So it deprecises it. Is that kind of the issue here? Is it that we're expecting to not have that precision? That's kind of weird. So if I ask for 85 years and 3 months, what do I get? I get that. But if I say 85.2 years, wait, what? Dude, this is some weird stuff. Do you see what's happening? Okay, wait a minute. Oh, I need to, right. I haven't been converting to interval. Hold on. Okay, so that makes sense. 85.2 years, 2 months, 0.02. So there's like a minimum precision. Who cares about this stuff, man? Like, what is the deal? What is the deal? Wait a minute. Is anybody watching this? So in Postgres, if you ask for minus 85.9 years, you get 85 years and minus 10 months. Is it interpreting the decimal as a number of months and not as a fractional quantity of a single year? I feel like that's what's happening, right? I think that this is utterly broken. This seems like utterly broken. I feel like this deserves a Postgres bug report. Don't you guys think? Is this expected? Postgres interval years. And I guess nobody's really expecting anybody to do this, right? Cool, see you later. Thanks for stopping by, Nikon. I feel like I want to make a Postgres bug report. Given an API and enough time, expect any developer to take dependency on edge case behaviors. Yes. Isn't there like a named law in that one? What do you guys think? Should I send this bug report? How do I compose a bug report without showing my email inbox? Maybe I'll do it later. Maybe, okay, hold on a minute. So while we node this, what do we do in Cockroach? What do we do in Cockroach? We say select 1.9 years interval. What do we get? We presumably get the actual thing. Now this also seems, no, this is right. 1.95 years. We use it as an actual fractional year quantity. Oh yeah, maybe you're right. Okay, hold on a minute. So maybe I'm just completely crazy here. Okay, so hold on a minute. So I guess the issue is really that they keep the precision of a fractional year at months level, and they don't let it go down to days, whereas we let it go down to days. So I guess that's kind of the bug report on Cockroach side. So forget, I was a little bit too hasty. A little bit too hasty. Fractional years in intervals should be truncated at months, not minutes. Well, I'll just say like this. In Postgres, it appears that asking for an interval with a fractional year quantity does not let's say specifying an interval with a fractional year quantity returns an interval whose precision is at best months. Here, I'll just put some examples. So we say select 1 year interval. That's an example, 1.5 years as an interval, and then 1.99 years. Maybe one of these two for good measure. In Cockroach, we do not truncate the precision, giving a more accurate looking but incompatible with Postgres response. So we'll do the same thing, select 1 year in the latter two cases, I guess we need to not even store the extra precision parts of the interval. All right. I mean, So I think this is where we're at, right? We have no, this is in offsets. For L.offset is not equal to length of the string. Don't know what this offset is. Oh, I guess that's just like where we're at in the string. Okay, so while we're still parsing, we do a bunch of stuff. We consume the sort of number, consume num, consume spaces, consume unit, and this is where we get years, consume spaces. And then we try to do this parsing, right? We say, we add to the duration the unit, so that's in this case a year, so 12 months, multiplied by the value. And then if it has a decimal, then we add this fraction. And I think that this is a little bit busted. Like, I think to get more compatible, we would want to do some truncation here where we don't, it's like something like this. We like don't edit the days or something. It's like kind of wacky. I mean, out of curiosity, so let's see, in Postgres, if I say 1 year, 2 months, okay, and then we say 3.3 months. See, that kind of trickles down. So it's like, oh, and in fact, even the months, fractional months do trickle down into hours and days and stuff. It's like just years is the special case. So honestly, maybe I could just make the fix myself. We'll see. I think I'm gonna regret this, presumably, because then you never want to become like too much of an expert in date math, because it'll come back to haunt you. But I think the trouble is basically that, look, when we don't have like a separate way to specify a year versus a month, you see, it's like a month is 1 month and a year is 12 months. And ideally we would know, like as a special case of this, we're talking about years here. And if we're doing fractional years and we don't continue, we only like, you know, what do? We do this and we don't do this part, essentially. Oh, you know, I think it's simple. I think there's just two cases here. If unit.months, there's really only two cases in which unit.months is equal to greater than 0, and it's the case of year and month. So I think we just have two cases for it. So I'll have two cases here. If unit.month is equal to 12, let's just be a little bit more careful. So if this is greater than 0, then we'll have two cases. And these units never contain I think we just sort of panic here. Yo, J Phils, what's going on, dude? I don't know what we should do here. I mean, like, maybe we should just return an error. Can I return an error here? Yeah, it looks like I can. Okay. We'll do that.
The computer's hooked into over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
Yo, it's Kix. Thanks so much for the follow. Kix is for kids. Kix is approved by mothers. What is it again? I forget. The stream's been pretty good. I'm doing a Monday stream. It's not normal for me, but it's kind of fun. I missed the weekend. I was like traveling kind of, so I'm doing a Monday night. It's kind of fun. So the error is going to be sort of like unhandled unit type or something. Like this is just like not really gonna ever happen, but we might as well not crash if it does happen, right? So if it's equal to 1, then we do this whole thing. It's kind of like, it's kind of more like, you know, we always do this, right? We always do this. And then if we say, if unit.months is equal to 1, to kind of do case 1, case 12, we'll do nothing here, and then default is where we, whoops, what did I do? It's a little cleaner this way. So for case 12, then we do the remainder stuff, like so. Nothing to do, limit the precision of, whoops, it's the other way around actually, right? Nothing to do, Postgres limits the precision of fractional years to months. Do not continue to add precision to the interval. See issue. I'm gonna make an issue for this, right? I did already. Okay, so in the default case, we're going to return our assertion error, get rid of this stuff. Cool. So I feel like that's pretty straightforward, right? So we take the, add the number of months. If we're talking about fractional months as opposed to fractional years, then we also figure out the fractional days in nanos and stuff. Okay, cool. I think that actually is not so bad. It makes sense. We just need to propagate this error if we have one. No, I think we should go like this. Okay. So I think we just have to write a test, and then we should be good to go. Interval test. Ah, looks like this is just wrong. This is a wrong test case. So we can just rerun these. And they'll fail. Make test package equals package SQL. Sem tree tests equals, what is this called? Test PD interval syntax. Hey, thanks, Boss. I appreciate that. That's really nice. Nice compliment. Nice to hear. I'm glad that you're finding it interesting. Got 1 year, 1 month. Expected 1 year, 1 month, 6 days. That's right. You did expect that, but that is not right. Let me just validate though. So in Postgres, if I say select 1.1 year as an interval, I get 1 year, 1 month. And same with this one, right? Okay, so let's fix those two as well then. Let's do 115 to make, or 119, I guess, to make sure that it rounds up. 1 year, 2 months. Over here, we're gonna do 1.11 to make sure that it does not round up. And then that's about it, right? Let's see if that worked again. And then we can go ahead and make a little commit. This is nice. This is easy to fix. Okay, this is cool. So we're kind of finding and fixing some bugs that we didn't know about, all because of the luck of having this test suite that Rust has, right? It's kind of cool. We do this a lot with other drivers. I guess we just haven't gotten to do it with Rust just yet. So I'm feeling good about that though. And I wonder if we recompile, maybe this will actually fix itself. That could be kind of neat. We'll find out. Wait, so there's still a problem. 1.15 got 1 year, 1 month, expected 1 year, 2 months. Wait, what? I think I meant to make this one 1.19. Okay, so that's definitely gonna work. Yeah, thank you. So we'll make a build short. And then we can rerun the old Rust tests and see what happens. So in the meantime, we'll just make a quick commit out of that stuff. Yo, Occupy Paul Street, what's up? How are you doing? Crab, yes, we're rusting. Do you know about Diesel RS? Previously, fractional, or we'll say previously parsing an interval with a fractional year would produce an interval that was too precise compared to Postgres, which we aim to be compatible with. Postgres truncates fractional year, let's see, truncates the precision of fractional year intervals, fractional years in intervals to months. We did not. This commit fixes the issue. For example, 1.1 year interval is now will become 1 year, 1 month instead of a quantity with days and hours. Brandon Macer works on it. J Phils. Coursera, yeah, that's super cool. I meant to re-congratulate you.
Computers hooked
But
into
it's pretty
over
awesome.
1,000 data
Congrats,
banks throughout the
Coursera.
world.
That's like, they're still going strong, I guess. It's really awesome to hear. The Slam and Salmon one, thanks for the follow. EdTech, yeah, exactly. EdTech and Jason are like, you know, bread and butter, salt and pepper. Release note. SQL change. Parsing intervals with fractional years now produces intervals with no more precision than months to match the behavior of Postgres. Okay, that's that. PB&J, right. PB&J. Okay, so let's run this guy and then rerun our Rust test and see what we get, if anything. Cargo test, features Postgres, intervals match PG values. I feel like this is a dance-worthy kind of moment. It's very exciting. We got some test suites passing. It's very cool stuff. Release note does in fact auto pull into the release notes. Exactly. I mean, it's not like completely automatic. We do have people to like audit them and edit them to make them more comprehensible. But yes, the idea is that they kind of pipeline automatically all the way up into the release notes. Hey, thanks for the 100 bits, Jason.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. That is super funny. Okay, cool. So let's go back and see what other tests that are broken. So we got... So we already looked at this one. I think this is probably the same issue about the default integer width. So serializing named composite types. What's the deal with that? Woohoo. I can't even talk low enough to make that happen. So wait, what is the failure? The failure is called result unwrap on an error value, database error unknown at or at I, syntax error unimplemented this. Oh, interesting. So it's probably just saying, doing something that we don't at all support. So let me, whoops. Let me just run just that test. How do I do that? I mean, now that I say it out loud, we definitely don't support composite types, so it makes sense that we wouldn't support this test. It ran nothing. Oh yeah, the kind of issue is that, right, we don't really print out things that don't even parse. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. We know that we don't support composite types at all, so we can just sort of skip that one. Record deserializes correctly. What's this one doing? Record types. Well, we don't support those either. Thanks for streaming. It was fun. Gotta go. Cool. Okay, well, I hope to see a PR from you. Happy to try to help if you run into trouble with it. Yeah, let me know. Ping me on that community Slack too. If you're not on it, you should be. I think that the way to get there, I think you are on it. I think I saw you on it. But yeah, send me a ping if you need help. But thanks for hanging out. See you next time. Record types, right? We don't support record types, so it makes sort of sense that we wouldn't support this one either. But what's the error that we actually get out of curiosity? It is receive more than 4 bytes. Oh, this is like that same thing though. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. So these two ones are about default integer width. And this first one though we don't know about. Transaction depth is tracked properly on commit failure. What's that about? Yeah, as long as Slack is not down. Man, what a day. What a day. Slack was completely broken. Transaction depth is tracked properly on commit failure. So what is this about? It says we drop a table, we create a table, we insert into a table some values, we make something called a barrier, we make 3 threads. Holy crap! This is some like complicated stuff. Get transaction depth? What even is that? Is that a diesel thing? Presumably that's a diesel thing, right? Because I have no clue what that would even be. Get transaction depth. Wait, let's look at this one. Self.transactionDepth.get. Wait a minute. Is this just a... Wait, are the tests for this file? Oh, interesting. So the tests for this file are actually inline. This is both an implementation file and a test file. That's kind of interesting. I did not expect to see that. I see. So this is sort of a thing that lets you use, maybe it's like about save points. You can implement nested transactions with save points in databases. And so maybe this is about that or something. Yeah, release save point, transaction depth -1. And where do we +1 it? If query is okay, self.transaction transaction depth.set self.transaction depth.get plus by. Okay, so presumably we call this with 1 when we add a transaction. Okay, sure. So wait a minute. When we actually run this, then what do we get? What goes wrong? Integration tests are supposed to be in a test directory. Keep in your Gopher hole. I think the Rust people like Gophers. I think in fact they would love if Gophers were to come be Rust stations too, right? What do the Rust stations on the line have to say about this? Okay, so assertion failure, left is equal to 0 and right is equal to 1 at line 228. So line 228 says, this is the sort of thing where we want to look at the log of what actually happened again. So let's run this again and see. It would be kind of nice if we could just print out not just the statements that are run, but all of the, I think there's a way to do that, right? Like essentially, you know, begin and commit and stuff are not really statements. They're just sort of like, I don't know. I think they are statements, but they're not really like SQL queries. We don't have like a, they don't get logged to the query log essentially. And I sort of forget how to ask them to get logged at all. So how would I do that again? Let me think. Let me think. I think there's some files. Maybe it's this con.go. Some like verbose logging I can turn on or something. No. I feel like it's kind of a fail that we don't have just this sort of everything logger that you can turn on if you really need to. It's kind of frustrating. The Rust log env-var? What would I set it to? 3. Maybe true? That didn't seem to work. I mean, it would be, really want to be able to log it on the database anyway. Yeah, like this stuff, right? Ideally, you would be able to actually get, yeah, like I really want to be able to log this entire darn thing. Should really add that. Out of curiosity, you know, O equals to trace. I'll try that. Okay, it still didn't help, but that's okay. That is okay. Okay, you know what we can do? We're just gonna go hard. We're gonna pull out the old Wireshark. We know that this will work. It's sad that we have to resort to this, I'm afraid to say. It's a little bit sad, but that's just fine. Sometimes you gotta do it, right? Port 26257. Capture both of these interfaces because I always forget which is which. Hit record. Then we run our test again. and we go back to over here, and we should see a bunch of Postgres stuff. Kind of see like way too much of it. It's a little annoying. Let's go to the, can I just like filter only protocol PG-SQL? Protocol. Can I just say like this? Nice, okay, that helped. Ah! So okay, so this is good, right? We see some things. We see our two statements here. Insert into transaction depth, blah, blah, blah. Tracked properly on commit failure. We see them happening here. JJM. Is it often that a customer of CockroachDB offers a quality of life update? Or is it mostly ideas from you and your team? Are you saying in terms of implementation or ideas? We try to take customer feedback and ideas all the time. And if you, in fact, have such an idea or piece of feedback, I'd love to hear it. In terms of implementation, I think that it's mostly historically been people on our team, but I mean, I would like to change that. I would like to change that. I want to make it very possible and in fact pleasant for people to contribute to CockroachDB for things such as quote unquote quality of life updates. I like that idea quite a bit. So yeah, curious to hear your thoughts. Root guy wants RGB lights. That's one of those projects that's kind of like, oh my gosh. I've like almost clicked buy on like some of these random things for a while, but just haven't quite done it yet. But anyway, I think like kind of what's going on here probably is that we have two different transactions that are happening at the same time. Looks like we opened two transactions. We maybe hit begin on both of them is my guess. I mean, we could probably find that. We have two people saying select count star on that same table. Begin transaction, isolation level serializable. Begin transaction, isolation level serializable. Two transactions. And then begin again? I'm confused by that. Oh no, that's a response. Okay. Oh right, I forgot that there's this sort of handy thing. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of small, but if there's a right angle bracket, that means it's a query sent to the server. And if it's a left, it means it's a response sent back from the server. RGB lights makes your computer faster? Heck yes. So like we send these transaction begin statements, we get responses back. We send select count star, and I guess the idea is that we're trying to set up sort of conflicting transactions. One of them is going to need to restart because the count star will differ, right? Since we're about to insert into them. So we go down below, we prepare some statements. I think that's what this is. No, this is not preparing a statement. This is actually running the count star. We get back our result. Then we run these insert statements. Well, we parse them and then we're going to execute them down below. So we execute them both. Then we say commit on both. This is actually kind of a cool test. And what happens is that one of them cancels itself. Maybe that's the test failing, actually. And the other one gets back restart transaction error. If you have recommendations, you bring them up. Just learning about more of the BB wizardry. Okay, thank you. Cool. What are the minimum hardware requirements? It kind of depends on your like workload requirements, root guy. I mean, people have played around and run them on Raspberry Pis. I think there was a blog post about that recently. So I think you can kind of do anything you want in a sense, as long as you have like at least a little bit of CPU, RAM, disk. But it really depends on your workload. So I don't know what to say. thought there was just some, yeah, this thing, right? Just deploying CockroachDB on a Raspberry Pi's Kubernetes cluster. I mean, wow, this is some crazy stuff. I don't exactly know what the deal is with this, but it seems really cool. You should check it out. By the way, what's up with Medium having like story limits? I don't really get that. It's like Medium used to be so free. Anyway, this is probably cool, but I haven't really checked it out too much myself yet. Anyway, okay, so what's going on, right? We get this error back. We get a restart transaction error, which is sort of what you expect if you have a serializable restart. And then somebody says rollback. One of these two queries, one of these two connections, I guess I should say. 56039 port. 56039 port. So I got a rollback. And then we get something weird. Then we get something really weird. We get, there is no transaction in progress. That is super suspicious, I have to say. So hold on, 56039, 56039. This does seem a little bit wrong. Medium wants to make themselves irrelevant. I end up no longer visiting sites with quotas. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I agree with you. On the other hand, we do need to figure out ways of paying creators, but I just don't think that Medium adding paywalls is really the way to do it. I feel like they're probably sort of competing against, whoops. That is, hey, Chachi. As usual, I haven't upgraded my project, so sorry about that. We're working on trying to figure out why the Rust driver for Cockroach is, well, I think it probably works pretty well at this point. It's just like it has a few little test failures in its test cases, and I'm trying to understand what they are. But I think that this is actually suspicious. So hold on a minute. Are you saying that if I were to do this, what would I get? I'm gonna do this same test case in 2 terminal windows and see what happens. This is kind of a cool way to look at serializability, right? It's a good experiment to run. So we're gonna say create table blah int primary key. So we're gonna over here on the left say begin transaction. This looks broken. Should file a bug report for this too. Let me just, okay, quick diversion. I know that somebody was just working on this very thing. So I just want to quickly file a bug report for it. This will, I think this is a nice feature. It's going to be in 20.2. I think it's still like a little bit, has a couple of things to work out. CLI timings for begin transaction statement are negative. This might have gotten fixed recently due to, let's see. Well, anyway. Okay, so anyway, so we do that. Over here, we're gonna say begin transaction as well. We're gonna say select count star from blah. Over here, we're gonna also say select count star from blah. And since we're in a transaction, when we actually insert something into this table, somebody's gonna have to restart. So I'll say insert into blah values 1. So for this perspective, he's gonna be happy. Insert into blah values 2. This person's gonna be happy, but then we actually go to commit these. This guy's gonna get a restart transaction. And this guy's gonna get, he's happy, but this guy gets a restart transaction. And the question is, see, this doesn't feel right. If I get a restart transaction error, I think I still should be inside of a transaction, right?
Databanks, databanks, databanks.
Hey, Abhishek SY, thanks for the follow. Because normally, okay, like by comparison, if I make a transaction and I say begin, select 1, and then I say something like select 1 divided by 0, something that returns a query error, I'm going to get into this so-called error state, right? And in the so-called error state, then I can say roll back. And then the transaction ends, which that seems more correct to me. So I feel like there's something funky going on. I know that we handle these ones specially, but nonetheless, I do think that there's something funky going on here. So, what to do? Okay, I feel like we're spamming out a lot of different things. Let's get our ducks in order for a quick second here. Ducks in a row. So we've got this. Let's make a new branch for this fractional year thing. Just want to send this out so it can be done and dusted. Okay. I'm slightly concerned that, yeah. Oh gosh, I haven't rebased in quite a bit, have I? Kind of curious if that CLI thing got fixed. Kind of seems like it didn't. Kind of seems like it didn't. Okay. All right. Let's see. What are we gonna do? I think I want to file a bug about this other problem as well, as it seems sketchy. Is there a way to simulate that without having to do 2 open windows, out of curiosity? If I say, I think there's a way to simulate an error, right? We have this like, have some kind of CRDB internal like error simulator thing. CRDB internal, wait a minute, it's gonna be, I think it's called force error. Force error. CRDB internal.force error. How does this work? I think you can give it an error code, which seems good. But I don't think this is gonna be enough, because I do think that the way that we return that error is actually like sort of special. In a sense, I bet like, if I were to just force an error with that same error code, everything would probably be fine. Like, got way too many windows open. Getting confused. Let's try to close some of these. Close this thing. Close this thing. Close this thing. Way too many windows. I've got like a window problem. I feel like I need something that's like, you're not allowed to make any more windows because you're at your quota. Because this always happens to me. Okay, so the error code would be, oh, and this doesn't even have the error code. Anyway, whatever. I'll just put the repro steps to be the whole thing, because I think it's probably better that way anyway. So I also, let me actually put an update on this issue as well, because I feel like that's the ultimate goal. I do want to link in this problem. in a sense, but like I want to keep it grounded in the sense that we do actually pass most of these tests now, like, which is pretty cool, I think. Well, it's, I mean, there's like 34 tests here, so maybe like this is not even a big deal. I'm not sure. I remember, okay, so if I go back to this bin test thing, it checks the diesel test, but it also checks all these other ones, diesel CLI, diesel migrations, diesel derives. So I'm guessing there's actually probably quite a few more that we haven't even looked at. Okay, forgive me for being so hasty, but let me just see. If I go to diesel CLI, huh? Oh, cd diesel CLI. Then I run this like so. What happens? We build some stuff, then we run some more tests. I guess we haven't run these. There's probably going to be more problems. That's kind of annoying. But I think we're doing good. We discovered a couple of interesting things. We fixed one of them. I'll just start writing a comment here. I revisited this a bit today. Looks like there are a few test suites within the diesel source code. Here's how I ran them. Clone the diesel repo. Update to the latest Rust nightly. Update. Your release to nightly first as well. Okay, so there's like a bunch more stuff to fix here. Fun. Let me check the other couple of packages as well. It's annoying that it just doesn't run all of them. It seems to like stop on first failure. Diesel tests. Let's try that one. When test suites stop on first failure, I find it irritating because it's like you really want to know the full scope of the issues that you're having rather than like running them over and over again until you find all of them. So I also had to make that env file, right? Failed to run custom build command. Okay, I don't know what that's about. But let's first let's look at our .env here. Put the following file in the env. Following text. CI/CD reason, it's because of the shell script. Yeah, that's probably a good point. The shell script does just run them sequentially, but I'm not sure, is there a way to like run cargo tests from the top level? I had trouble doing that. If I do that, it says features is not allowed in the root of a virtual workspace, which I don't know what that means, but presumably you have to just do each of them in turn. Maybe I should sort of like, I'm also kind of curious, like if this is an issue just on 20.2 or if it was still an issue, or if it like wasn't an issue on this older version. I'm gonna try this out actually. Because I feel like it's a little bit suspicious. Like that seems to be like it might be a regression. So let me quickly try this. I'm gonna say create table A and primary key begin. Select count star from A, insert into A values 1. And then over here, I'm gonna do C-SQL URL, this big fat thing. Password authentication not enabled in insecure mode. What? I think I have to use this. I think I used the wrong paste. There we go. Okay, so then over here, I'm going to say the same thing. Begin, select count star from A. I have to connect to the right database, use mover, select count up, begin, select count star from A. Oh, we have like a different mode of operation. That's kind of weird. It's like something sort of changed, huh? So if I say commit here, then I say insert into A values 1. Okay, I've screwed up this experiment. I have to try again. Okay, we'll try again. So we'll say begin. We'll say select count star. We'll say insert. Make sure to have a new value. We'll say begin. We'll say select count star. And then here we'll say commit. And then here we'll say insert into A values 3. Then we'll say commit, and this should experience it. I guess there's just something kind of different. I don't know what it is. We did change the way the transaction protocol worked a little bit. You see how it hung there? And how it doesn't hang in the new version? I'm trying to think, how would I kind of simulate a similar problem on the old version? I'm not exactly sure. In any case, it doesn't really matter. Suppose the workspace has multiple crates, but each feature is per crate. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Okay, I don't know if it's a regression, but I do think that it's a problem. So I'm still going to report it. Okay, so let's do that. So we'll say SQL transaction error state is not entered after a serializable restart. Repro. Open 2 terminals on 2 connections to a 20.2 binary. Connection 1. Connection 2. Okay. So we'll try this one more time. So connection 1 is going to say create table test, and I'm sure I have a test table already. I guess I don't. Okay, so we'll say create table test int. We'll say begin, select count star, insert into A. Connection 2 will do the same thing minus the create. So begin, select count star. Huh, so confused. I guess it depends on the order. So I think what I have to do is actually, this is very interesting. Oh, I see what I have to do. Okay, so I think what I have to do is I say begin on the first one, say begin on this one. I do the select count star on both before doing the insert on either. I think that's the issue. So now I do an insert on one, then I do the insert on the other. There we go. So now I commit this one, and this is the bug right here. So I don't, instead of getting into the error state here, I get into the, you know, still an open transaction, or like no transaction state at all, which seems like super screwed up. Okay, so now I can do that. Let me write this down and see if I can repro it on the earlier version. Okay, so let's see. I'll copy this log. I need to edit it a little bit. So connection 1 says create table. It says begin. Just get rid of this stuff because it's just not so necessary. Keep this. No, let's get rid of these ones. And just start from here. Okay, so at this point we pause. Then we go back to connection 2. Connection 2 says begin select count star. Then it does its insert and commit. I forget the order. Oh well. Okay, so I'll just make sure that it's done this way. Oh, it's all screwed up, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. I think the intent is pretty clear. Should I just like okay, I'll just do it right. So back in connection 1, then we do our insert. Then we do our commit. Then connection 2 has the problem where we say commit and we get this error and we don't go into the error state. So that seems broken. The bug, in my opinion, is that in connection 2, we don't go into, oh, you know what, I can make it really clear. I'll say rollback here, and then it'll say there's no transaction in progress. The error state, we simply leave the transaction completely. I think that we should be able to type rollback to get out of the transaction. Okay, so now let me see if I can reproduce this on 20.1, because now that I understand how to do it a little bit better, I think I can make it happen. So we'll quit this. We'll say 20.1.5 cockroach demo. So we have this window. We'll open the other window over here. Okay, so create table test, begin, select count star from test, select count star from test, insert into test, then we do our commit, and then we do our commit here. It's the same thing. That is so crazy to me. I don't understand how we never have noticed this. It seems like this bug was also present in 20.1. Okay, so let's call this a C bug. I noticed this while running some of the tests for Diesel. This little autocompleter thing like doesn't really work that well, but anyway, so it's 13.787. All right, so now that we've got this captured, just want to write down, guess let's make this let's see, so 2 of them seem to be about default integer size. 4 in Postgres, 8 in Cockroach. The other 2 so we got this guy, transaction state after serializable restart is wrong, and then this other thing that we opened, fractional I think there should be 223. Wait, what? 226, 233. Oh, okay. So fractional years are parsed wrong in intervals. Okay. All right. Cool. So let's get through these other ones. I feel like this is like a good find. I feel like this is a good find. It's not every day that you just find magic test cases that find brokenness in your database. So I want to do them. So let's run these ones for the CLI. What do we get? Right. This looks like default int size. Type name int 4, type name int 8. And this one, guessing this is the same issue. No, it looks a little different. So do you think I can stare at this? This is an eye chart. It is an eye chart. I guess we could try to diff them. I mean, these look the same to me, TBH. Let's just try to diff them in a differ, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I can see it. Okay, so the problem is that the SQL name and the Rust name are flipped. No. So in A, they're both table 2, and in B, they're both table 1. The parent table seems to be sort of wrong somehow. Let's see what this is about. Let's actually just run this one on its own. Then maybe we can see the query that it's running. close this, try this again. Okay, so, what a nicely reproducible thing. Okay, let's do it. Let us do it. So in Postgres, create schema, test schema, copy all this stuff. I'm confused. I am confused. Okay, wait a minute. Let's go to our Wireshark for a hot second. What is the actual thing that we got sent? Oh my gosh, this has gotten to be a really long log. Can we just like clear this and restart? Is this a restart? Restart current capture. Continue without saving. The heck? Okay, so let's try this then. That's fine. So let's just run this whole thing. We'll do this first. This is gonna dump a whole bunch of crap, and then we have to say where. Need all this, and then the values are table 1 and test schema. Test schema. Table 1. Did I get it wrong? What? Oh, wait, what? It's a different failure now. Oh, this is the infor. Dang it, I was just running the wrong test case. I feel stupid. So we need to check this one. Okay, this is the right test case. Hold on, just be right back 1 second. 1 second. All right. Okay, what was I up to? Right, we got this test running better. We just wanted to figure out what's the query that it's running. It's this big, fat, crazy thing. So we see that parent table is equal to table 2, and parent table over here is equal to table 1. What's the deal? We want fk1 to be the same as fk2. Okay, so it's saying create table table 1, create table table 2, and fk1 points to table 1. And then over here we have table 3, where fk2 points to table 2. Okay. And what we want to make sure is that this is some crazy stuff. It wants to assert that fk1 and fk2 are the same, even though they like seem pretty different. Child table here is table 2. Parent table here is table 1. Child table here is table 3. Parent table here is table 2. So how could it be the case that we're asserting that these things are the same? Oh, no, that's not what it's saying. It's saying fk1, okay, so this is like our expected output, and our actual output is the result of running this function, load foreign key constraints. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. And then I see. So the actual thing that we get is we get one foreign key that's right. One foreign key that's right. Table 2 and table 1 point to each other. And one foreign key. So left is our expected and right is our actual. So our actual, instead of getting table 3 pointing to table 2, we get table 3 pointing to table 1. That does feel quite wrong, doesn't it? So what's going on? What's going on? Okay. It would be kind of nice if I could get a log of this stuff that I could just paste into a terminal instead of having to manipulate it. You know, it's really annoying. But that's not the way things are right now. So we'll just do it, I suppose. Yeah, I think it's not even the order that switched. It's like something worse. It's actually that in the second one, we're expecting that the second foreign key constraint is pointing from child table table 3 to parent table table 2. But in the actuality, what we get is child table table 3 pointing at parent table table 1. So it's not the order switch, it's just like completely wrong. Yo, Portuguese captain, what is going on? What is going on? There I am. So I'm just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. That's the plan. So we're gonna try to turn these things into things that I can run to make things a little bit easier. Unfortunately, it's like quite hurting my head to look at this. So I think what we have to do is replace this with foreign key and this with test schema. And that's this query. I think in every case, colon, this one's supposed to be, let's see, so we can replace $1 with test schema. Oh my God, this is like wall of text nightmare. Replace $2 with fk1 ref table 1. I'm starting to think that, I don't know, maybe that's fine. And then replace $3 with 1. Okay, so then we can dump this thing. This is limit 1. This is limit 1. This is limit 1. Okay, so then we just have to fix. So replace $2 with primary. Same thing down here, and then this one, whoops. And here we gotta replace $2 with fk2 ref table 2. Okay, so then we can get rid of the extra junk, and then we can actually finally run this stuff, which would be helpful. Okay, so log.log, yes. Okay, so let's make a connection here. Dump all this stuff. Didn't put semicolons after any of it. That is annoying. Okay, so let's fix that up. Okay, so we have a bunch of stuff back. Interesting. So you can sort of see exactly what's going on, which is that the result of this last query is table 1, and I think we're expecting it to be table 2 or something like that. Something like that. I mean, I don't know. So what is that last query? It says, huh. I mean, what's kind of crazy is that if you look at these two queries, they're the same. So it's like no wonder that they're the same results. I'm kind of now wondering whether the problem is actually that ooh, you know, I think I know what the problem is actually. Ooh, it's kind of annoying. I think the problem is that in Postgres, the names of indexes are always unique across all tables. They're globally unique. Whereas in Cockroach, they're scoped by table. And we always name the primary key of a table just primary, which isn't a unique key. And so what happens is that Rust is asking for the primary index of a table, and it's just asking for it raw in a sense. It's not also scoping this query by table name. And I think if we were to do that, if we were to add another and here, and information schema.key column usage.table name is equal to, you know, whatever it would be. So I guess this would be table 3. I think that would produce the right results. I think this is going to give us the right, whoops, I did something wrong. I need to have another n parentheses. So that gives us back table 3. That doesn't sound quite right either. But anyway, I think fundamentally the idea here is that it's sort of only half constraining these outputs because it doesn't know that in Cockroach, it's not enough to just give the index name. You also have to give the table name. That's kind of trouble. It's kind of trouble. But let's just write this down and then move on so that we can at least remember it later. Okay. I should probably also include this number here, so you can sort of see how many failed and how many passed. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Also get that information for this one. I spend most of my time doing management stuff. On my stream, I like to do programming because you can actually do that on stream. But my actual job is management. You've highlighted your butt. Congratulations, root guy. I'm very proud of you. You did it. Okay, diesel dynamic schema. Are there tests in this one? Burst of energy. Yeah, I mean, you know, today was what today was. And I didn't have one over the weekend, so I figured I would do something here. None type 20? Okay, I don't feel like, speaking of energy, I do feel like I am kind of fading here. So I want to kind of just dump these logs so that people can look at them later. Diesel dynamic schema, and then call it a day. Okay. Migrations. I feel like this one might hurt. This one might hurt given the lack of transactional schema changes, but we'll see. Ah, this one actually worked. Oh, but there were 0 tests. Okay, so it worked, but there were 0 tests to run. Pretty good stuff. Let's do diesel tests. Hopefully that's the last one. I mean, fail to, what is this? Fail to run custom build command. Unimplemented this. Oh. At or near diesel manage update at. So it kind of seems like in this case, let's use our magic Wireshark to figure out what's happening here. It kind of seems like there's a whole statement that we don't even at all support that is preventing the test from running at all. So let's see what that statement is. What is this continuation data about though? Like I keep getting that and I don't. Maybe if I search this string, I'll be able to figure out what it's doing. Oh, you know what I bet it is? It's probably create function or something. Oh yeah, I think this was actually... Oh, it's because I'm in this subdirectory. Aha. Okay, so the problem is that in certain cases we have to use this diesel manage updated at thing. Cool, thanks a lot for stopping by, Chachi. See you later. Diesel tests. This test suite fails to start due to the lack of user-defined functions. As mentioned in the issue subject, we don't support Diesel seems to make one to keep track of updated at. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I kind of wanted to get to this, but like now I'm tired and I think I should stop. I'll have to do this another time, but I feel like this would be easy and kind of nice to get done. Anyway, okay, let's find someone to raid though. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. This was fun. I like the Monday night thing, kind of. I don't know how I would feel if I actually like had a bunch of work to do today, because I didn't, just as it happened, didn't have too much work going on today. But so we'll see if it's even really possible to do it in the future. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Friday, Sunday has some advantages. Whoops. Just need to find. Oh, you know who we should raid is my friend Last Miles. This guy, very interesting guy. He raided me a while back, and I want to raid him back. So say hi to Last Miles. I think you'll whoops, find his stream really interesting. I think he was gonna do some ghost stuff at one point. He does some really wild stuff on stream though. Anyway, say hello to him, and I'll see you guys another time. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. See you later.